The snow fell quietly on Maplewood Avenue as Richard Calloway sat in the warmth of his black Range Rover, the heater humming against the biting December cold. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments where in the world are you watching from. The dashboard clock read 11:47 p.m., Christmas Eve, and the city had folded itself into sleep. Richard was heading home from his company's charity gala, bow tie loosened, a half-eaten box of chocolates on the passenger seat meant for his 7-year-old daughter Emma, who was already asleep with her grandmother. He had given away thousands of dollars that night to polished non-profits, shaken hands with politicians, and smiled for cameras. He felt absolutely nothing. That hollow feeling had become familiar since his wife, Claire, had passed 3 years ago from cancer, leaving him with a little girl, a massive house, and more money than purpose. He slowed the car at a red light near Elm Street when something caught his eye, a figure hunched behind a restaurant dumpster, digging carefully through black garbage bags, with gloved hands that were missing fingertips. She was old, perhaps in her 60s, wrapped in a brown coat held together by a single button, a floral scarf tied around her grey hair. Richard watched for a moment. He told himself the light would turn green. It did. He drove forward, then stopped. Something pulled at him, something he hadn't felt in years. He reversed, parked illegally by the curb, and stepped out into the freezing night. "Excuse me, ma'am?" he called softly. The woman flinched and stepped back, clutching a half-eaten bread roll to her chest like it was something precious. Her eyes, sharp, brown, and dignified, met his without shame. "I'm not causing trouble," she said firmly. "I know," Richard replied, holding up his hands. Can I help you? Are you okay?" She studied him for a long moment, the snow settling on both their shoulders. Then she said something he did not expect. "I'm looking for my daughter's Christmas present." Richard blinked. "I'm sorry?" The woman straightened her spine and said, with quiet devastation, "My daughter, she's 8. She's staying at the shelter on Franklin Street with my sister. I promised her a doll. I saw one through this window last week, a little pink one with braided hair. I thought maybe they threw it out during cleanup. She's been so patient this whole year. She hasn't complained once. Not when we lost the apartment. Not when her father left, not once." Her voice didn't crack. That was what broke Richard completely. The steadiness in it, the way she spoke about suffering without asking for pity, the way a mother's love made absolute dignity out of absolute desperation. He stood in the snow with a multi-millionaire's bank account and felt poorer than he ever had. "What's your daughter's name?" he managed. "Lily," she said, and for the first time, a small smile crossed her weathered face. "She likes anything with braided hair. Says it looks like hers." Richard reached into his coat pocket and found what he was looking for, his phone. He called Marcus, his assistant, who he knew was awake. "Marcus, I need you to find a toy store or a superstore open right now. Anything within 20 miles. Find me a doll with braided hair." Then he turned back to the woman. "My name is Richard. Can I know yours?" "Margaret," she said carefully, still holding the bread roll. "Margaret, will you let me drive you somewhere warm while we wait for a call back?" She hesitated, the hesitation of someone who had learned not to trust sudden kindness. Then the cold made the decision for her. 30 minutes later, they sat in a 24-hour diner on Route 9, Margaret with both hands, wrapped around a mug of hot cocoa and a full plate of eggs in front of her. Marcus had found a toy store 40 minutes away, still open, and had personally driven there, calling Richard back to describe every doll on the shelf until Margaret whispered, "The one with the purple dress and long brown braids." Richard bought 4 of them, one for Lily, one for Emma, and 2 spares he wasn't sure why he bought yet. Except that generosity, once started, is very hard to stop. He drove Margaret to the Franklin Street shelter himself. Before she stepped out, she turned and said, "You didn't have to do any of this." "I know," he said. "That's why I wanted to." She looked at him with those steady brown eyes and said simply, "Merry Christmas, Richard. You gave my daughter a mother who didn't fail her tonight. That's the only gift I wanted. He drove home through the quiet snow and cried for the first time in 3 years, and not from grief, but from something he had nearly forgotten existed. The next morning, Emma opened her doll with the purple dress and brown braids and asked where it came from. A friend, Richard said, and meant it completely. He went on to fund transitional housing for 12 families that year, starting with Margaret and Lily. He never took a photo, never held a press conference. He just remembered the sound of a mother's steady voice in the snow, asking for nothing except one small, beautiful Christmas miracle, and how it had quietly saved them both. If stories like this move your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories, where real compassion, real courage, and real human connection are celebrated every single day.